Welcome back, and thanks for tuning in. Does your child struggle with keeping their hands to themselves or hitting other people? If so, you might be frustrated, wondering, why is this happening and what can I do about it? We're going to get into that today. Picture yourself at another school meeting where you're being told that your child won't keep their hands to themselves, or you're on a play date with another family or in the park and your child starts hitting other kids and you're feeling frustrated and kind of embarrassed because you don't know why this is happening and you don't know what to do about it. You've told your child 1,000,000 times that they have to keep their hands to themselves, that they can't hit other children, and if they do, you're going to have to take them out of the park. What else can you do about this? Though hitting often feels like it happens randomly and out of the blue, it probably is happening for a reason. So today we're going to talk about how to figure out the reason, how to address it, and how to make real progress, because you know that just saying don't hit 1,000,000 times isn't working. Before we get into the rest of it, if you're new here, I hope you'll consider subscribing, and if you like the content, please hit the like button. All right, let's get into it. First things first, let's clear this up. Your child knows that hitting isn't okay. They've heard it from you, they've heard it from their teachers, from social stories, from YouTube songs, but knowing the rule isn't the same thing as being able to follow it in every moment. Think about the last time you were overwhelmed. Did you snap at someone or scarf down a bag of chips? You knew better, but at that moment, knowing didn't matter. For your child, hitting is often the same. It's a reaction, not a choice. As I mentioned, hitting isn't usually random. It's your child's way of communicating when words or other tools fail them. So let's look at some of the common reasons why it happens and what we can do as parents to help. Number one, it's pretty obvious, sensory overload. If the hallways are too loud or crowded or chaotic, your child might hit as a way to cope. It might be the same on the playground. Children squealing or screaming or high-pitched noises from a very young child. That can set our kids off. Just like it can for us when we're in an overwhelming situation like a crowded airport or something like that, and somebody steps on our toe. We're more triggered when that environment is overstimulating than we would be in the normal course of life. Second is impulse control. Sometimes kids hit because their brain-to-body connection is still developing, and we know that our kids often have issues with developing impulse control. They feel provoked in some way. Maybe another child says something rude to them, and before they can think it through, their hand's already swung. It's like trying to stop a sneeze halfway. It's just not happening. A third reason why children might be hitting or not able to keep their hands to themselves is communication breakdown. If your child feels misunderstood or unable to express themselves, hitting might become their go-to move. It's like saying, I don't know how else to say this, so I'm going to make my distress known. And so, for example, say a child grabs your child's pencil and they don't know how to say, I need that, or I want it back. They might shove. That might be a reasonable response in their minds to getting their needs met. A fourth might be, and I don't think this one I think is overused. I think people think it's this more often than it is, but it does sometimes happen, and that is escape behavior. Sometimes kids learn that hitting is a free pass to going home, because if they hit, they get in trouble, their parents are called, and they get to go home. I don't think it's usually this intentional. I really believe that most of the time, the hitting is a response over which they don't have control. They're not doing it intentionally. Using it to escape to go home would imply that they are intentionally using it. I'm not saying that never happens, which is why I'm bringing it up. I think it does, but don't go to that one as your first thought. I don't think that they're doing it intentionally most of the time. A fifth reason might be provocation by peers, and let's not overlook this one. Sometimes the problem isn't your child. If the other kids are teasing, provoking, or even outright bullying your child, hitting them might feel like the only way to stand up for themselves. And honestly, if someone threw sand at me, I'd probably want to tackle them too. So it's really something for us to watch out for, and especially at school where we don't have eyes on them. So we really have to make sure that the teachers and administration, that they're looking out for your child to make sure that they're not being provoked. And then last is just plain old fatigue or overwhelm. The school day just might be too long for them. By 2 p.m., your child might be running on empty. No energy, no patience, no ability to self-regulate. Hitting becomes their way of saying, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. Before we tackle what to do about it, if you have a child who hits, what do you think is underlying their behavior most of the time? I'd love if you'd share that with us in the comments. I'd love to have a conversation about that. All right, so let's next turn to practical steps to help. Now that we've talked about why, let's get into the what now. Because telling your child not to hit is like telling yourself not to eat cookies during a stressful day. Nice idea, but not exactly helpful. Here are some things you can do. If it's happening at school, try collaborating with the school. They don't know your child as well as you do, and you might be able to really help them understand your child's needs so that you can together come up with a plan that meets your child's needs. So for example, if sensory overload might be the problem, suggest giving your child more breaks to escape the chaos. If they need more movement or input, brainstorm how they can offer that to your child. Movement with purpose can be a game changer, and they might just not be thinking that way, so you can help them understand your child and meet their needs. Another thing you can do is teach replacement skills. So help your child find better ways to respond in those moments when they're inclined to hit. Again, it takes time to learn to interrupt the impulse to hit, but they can do it. Some tools to help them interrupt that impulse might be something like, first, teach them a simple phrase that they can use, like, I don't like that, or even, please stop. It can help them assert themselves in that moment without escalating the situation. Another thing you can do is give them something to hold, something that's small and portable, like a fidget toy or a stress ball, or even a small weighted item. The act of gripping and squeezing can redirect their energy and provide sensory input that they might need to interrupt their impulse. And it also has the added benefit of occupying their hands, which is another reminder to interrupt themselves when they go to hit. Another thing you might be able to do, if possible, is to adjust the environment. Now, you can't do that on a playground, although you might choose a playground that's less crowded for that reason, if that's available to you. But, in school, for example, if the hallways are crowded and a nightmare, perhaps suggest to the school that your child be able to transition a few minutes earlier or a few minutes after the chaos dies down. A simple change like that can prevent sensory overload before it starts. If other kids are provoking your child, call it out. Advocate for better supervision in the hallways or elsewhere in school, on the playground, and hold the school accountable for addressing bullying. Your child deserves to feel safe, period. And remember to check in with your perspective. Your child knows that hitting isn't okay, but they need to learn how to get their needs met in another way. So punishment, as we know, isn't an effective way. And sometimes when we ask them, why did you hit? It does sound accusatory. And most of the time, they're not going to be able to answer you anyway. We want to do what we can to open the door for understanding rather than defensiveness. And let's not forget, it's a process. Your child is not going to master keeping their hands to themselves overnight. But giving them the right tools, support, and strategies, they'll get there. And in the meantime, they need to know that you're on their side, not excusing their behavior, but understanding it and helping them grow. Hitting is a symptom, not the problem. The problem is your child is trying to get their needs met, and we need to help them learn how to do that in a way that doesn't involve putting their hands on someone else. So by giving them the tools, by helping the school if that's an issue, by helping them understand your child better, we're doing our best to set them up for success, and they will learn. So keep at it. You're doing a great job. Hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you in the next one.